But this is what the president wants to hide from us. He's got something going with Vladimir Putin. We know that. He's got a bromance with all of the dictators across the world. And it's not just Putin, but there seems to be something special regarding Putin. But you talk about Erdogan, you talk about Duterte, you talk about Kim Jong-un. He loves these guys. Now, this is a president who wants to be authoritarian just like them. This is why the people of America have a choice in this election. And we're going to have the continuation of the Trump chaos and interference with institutions that should be telling us, American people, the truth, or are we going to have a Joe Biden who will tell us the truth? You know, lying is not something that Joe Biden does, but it comes out of the president's mouth since the very first time he even set foot, even before then, in the White House.
Who in Hawaii votes for this imbecile? I mean, I just want to know. I want to meet someone in Hawaii who cast their vote for Mazie Hirono and feels good about it. You can say you don't like the Republican. If you're a Democrat, I get it. You know, whatever, fine. I'm not going to win that argument. But I just want to know who's like, yeah, Mazie, that's who we want to be making important decisions for our state. Trump has a bromance with the dictators of the world. Foreign policy has been one of these areas during the Trump administration where the results are just objectively better than what you had under the very haughty Obama foreign policy team that came in and, oh, we're not going to do stupid stuff, they said. And then they did really stupid stuff. Right? It was Obama who drew the red line in Syria and then didn't do anything. Obama and Hillary Clinton really that pushed for the toppling of Gaddafi in Libya without any real plan or idea of what was going to come next. The rise of ISIS, which led to mass casualty terrorist attacks on European and U.S. soil. Things getting worse in Iraq, worse in Afghanistan. Our relationship with, I mean, name a country we had that was a place where we were challenged beforehand, and you will have a place that Obama made things worse. But this line about how Trump loves dictators so much, it's just too much fun for the libs to say. It's just too easy to take this cheap shot all the time. Look, Trump, you know, he tried his unorthodox approach with Kim Jong-un, and it has not worked, okay? It hasn't worked. I live in reality. He tried, but the thing that the libs never understood about North Korea diplomacy was that Trump made no concessions. There was nothing lost in this. There was no, but he's talked to him directly. Well, how are you ever going to get a breakthrough if you don't actually have a real discussion with the leader of a country that's a true autocracy? Trump tried, hasn't worked yet. Maybe it would work in the next 4 years. But unlike when Obama was on the world bowing toward all the different dictators and then giving pallets of cash to the Iranians and signing that horrific Iran nuclear deal, unlike the Obama administration, there's nothing you could point to that is a problem here that has been made worse as a result of Trump's foreign policy. If anything, he's the first president in a very long time who hasn't started a war in a country. It is possible. It is possible to not get drawn into a war or go deeper into a pre-existing war as president of the United States. That is something that we have seen now that is not beyond the scope of possibility. And they hate the president for this. They hate him for this because foreign policies are, particularly for people who work in the news media, they believe that it's a way to separate themselves from the less knowing. They think that their sophistication shows because they know the name of a foreign capital before they go on air that they just Googled 5 minutes before that. They think that this is how they distinguish themselves from the hoi polloi and all of this. And that's why one of the reasons why they hate Trump so very much right now on this issue, and why they're going to continue to talk about how he is a stooge for dictators, or he's got a bromance, as Mazie Hirono says. I mean, Obama had a bromance with the Castro regime, with the Maduro regime in Venezuela. Obama was bowing to the mullahs in Tehran. You know, you're not gonna have ISIS doing what it did under Trump administration. ISIS figured that Obama was going to be too risk averse to really handle the problem, and they were right. They were right. And we saw the results of that. But on foreign policy, you're not going to hear that much about it. They're going to keep with this nonsense about the bromance and all the rest of that, because anyone who's really watching this would say, hold on a second. Trump was supposed to be a catastrophic failure. We're going to get World War III, they said. And instead, you get Mideast peace deals that none of his predecessors were able to get done. You get no new wars. And you get a confrontation on trade with China where everyone said, don't do that, don't do that. Trump did it, and he was right. He was right to do it. He was right to finally confront Chinese predatory trade policies that they were enriching the Chinese Communist Party at the expense of Americans and American companies. Obama administration didn't do a darn thing about it. They just sat around. And the Republicans were, in a sense, also guilty on this one because they went along with it. They figured we're all going to be more wealthy because, well, at least they're going to be, not you. They were going to be more wealthy because of free trade and big corporations offshoring jobs. Who needs jobs in America? We're all just going to have really cheap stuff from Walmart made in China. That was the deal. It wasn't a good deal, was it? The president understands that the Biden record, especially on foreign policy and on China and a whole bunch of things, the Biden record is a major weak spot for these Democrats. Play 19.
Joe Biden should not be asking for your support. He should be begging for your forgiveness, and he should be. Biden supported the disastrous Trans-Pacific Partnership. This building wouldn't be here if you ever did that one, which would have been a death sentence for the U.S. auto industry and other industries. He supported the horrendous Korea deal. Okay, how about the South Korea deal? It's a disaster. So that was a Hillary Clinton deal, I must say. Not him, although I guess he had it, his vice. Hey, you know what's interesting with Biden? So he always says, why didn't the president do this? And why didn't the president do that? And why didn't do this and that and this and that? The guy's been there for 47 years, but he just left like 3.5 years ago. He was there. And I keep saying, why didn't you do it? Why didn't you do it? Could have done it. It's not like he was 25 years ago. They were there 3.5 years ago. Why didn't you do it, Sleepy Joe?
What is the big Biden accomplishment? Anyone want to point to it? Anyone want to explain? It seems to me that his biggest accomplishment has been to be an intense mediocrity who's gotten reelected to the Senate over the course of several decades. That's his biggest accomplishment. He's the quintessential politician who just wants to get reelected. That's what matters to him. Wants to be in that position, get that salary, have that influence. That's it. There's been nothing else. This guy's not about public service. And he's also not about saying the Pledge of Allegiance correctly. Play 16. This was Biden yesterday.
America. I pledge allegiance to the United States of America. One nation, indivisible, under God, for real.
Huh? It's like the truncated Biden version there. They know he's a loser, folks, but they think this time they can just make him into a winner. They can carry him across the finish line. That is the plan. And here is his promise to all of you in the meantime. Play 15.
I'm running as a proud Democrat, but I'm not going to govern as a Democratic president. I'm going to govern as president. I get criticized for saying that sometimes from some in my party, but that's not what I'm going to do. I'm going to fight as hard for those who supported me as those who did not support me. This is not a partisan moment, for God's sake. This has to be an American moment.
He's really insulting our intelligence there, isn't he? Yeah, sure. How is he going to fight as hard for those who didn't vote for him? By having more government regulations on the businesses that they want to work for or start and open themselves? By increasing government intervention in a whole bunch of different ways in the marketplace to raise the price of things, to raise taxes? What exactly is Biden going to do that makes your life better? Hopefully he won't, as we've seen with previous Democrat administrations, come up with some humanitarian, quote, humanitarian reason to send your sons and daughters off to some godforsaken country to go fight a war that we don't need to fight. Look, I to this day, I learned quite a lesson from the Bush years, and it's one that I also learned from doing at some level. having gone to Iraq and Afghanistan during the Bush years. And there was a lesson learned there about the Republican foreign policy establishment, neocon interventionism, and never again, folks, not something we should ever do. And the Republican Party, instead of focusing on the domestic policy issues that really mattered and should have mattered to the American people, did go with some foreign adventurism, if you will, foreign policy interventionism that had very negative outcomes and was not worth the price tag, certainly in lives lost and also in treasure spent. So I think that we're past that now as a Republican Party. We're not going to go to war because some bad thing is happening in some other country and it makes libs feel sad on their way to the farmer's market in, Palo Alto. That's actually not, because they're not the ones who are going to be all fighting that war, by the way. Just remember that. The think tank interventionists and the various neocons within the government, they're not the ones that are pushing for these ideas often. They're not signing up to fight anything. Sending you over there, sending your children, your grandchildren over there. So that's a big foreign policy shift too, because remember, Democrats are very happy to go to war when it's not just in America's interest. They're very happy to go to war just because it makes them feel good about some issue, right? They'll actually send people off to fight so that they feel better about what's happening in some other part of the world, which is in my view, a grotesque betrayal of what it should mean to deploy U.S. military force for the policy class. It should not be for the benefit of non-Americans in some place that is not a strategic and critical U.S. national security interest. So I hope that's a lesson that we've all learned. But just on foreign policy in general, their criticisms of Trump are annoying. Oh, and I forgot. There's a story today at Politico I saw about how there's a secret CIA, not so secret anymore apparently, a secret CIA assessment that says that Putin is running information operations online to defame President Biden. I don't even know if I have the patience to go into this in any particular detail. I mean, this is just stupid beyond words. First of all, as somebody who used to write assessments for the CIA, there are a lot of things that get written in that building, and most of them are worthless, and a lot of them are wrong. I'm just telling you the truth. Most CIA analysis is just the process is the product. We're paying people to look at this thing, and they're writing papers that very few people who actually make any decisions. It's one of the reasons I left the CIA. I was like, well, what am I even... If I want to influence the administration, I have much more influence now than I did when I was a CIA analyst. Even when I would go on Capitol Hill or go to the White House, I mean, occasionally getting to speak to the president directly, I guess you have some influence as a CIA analyst, but that was very rare. People were shocked I was so young I was able to even do that. But, in general, it's a lot of just busy work, a lot of nonsense. But, the CIA, the same CIA that had the WMD assessments, right? That CIA for the Iraq War, they're now saying that Putin, they're not certain. They're saying they think probably Putin is doing information operations to defame Joe Biden. You know what the best information operation to defame Joe Biden is? Letting the man speak. Letting him out of the basement. I think today they put a lid on Biden, they call it, on the campaign. A lid on Biden. Let me out. It's not like that. They put a lid on the campaign, which means that they're basically shutting down any public appearances or statements or anything for Biden for the rest of the day. They put a lid on at 9 a.m. This guy doesn't have it, folks, but they don't remember the same attitude they have about they'll burn down the system, they'll tear down the system, they'll do whatever they have to do to be in power. The mission here is just to get people, to fool people who are not partisan Democrats into voting for Joe Biden in some swing states, and then they'll do whatever they have to do afterwards to get what they want. They don't care beyond that, right? They don't care what norms they break, and that's all. It's all nonsense. Understand the opposition here, and you will understand exactly what's really possible. So they won't feel, they won't be upset if they end up, they won't feel ashamed if 6 months after a Joe Biden victory, they go, yeah, looks like Joe's not feeling well, so he's going to step aside, and Kamala Harris is now the president of the United States. They're going to think they've pulled off a coup or, a planned transfer of power. They think they're going to have pulled off an amazing scheme and will have saved the country in the process. That's what they really believe. One thing I just want to note from yesterday, before we get into roll call here, you had Bill de Blasio, who's so upset. You had this DOJ designation of New York, Seattle, and Portland as zones of anarchy. The de Blasio administration, because he's busy ruining New York City. De Blasio administration it was fascinating what he had to say about this. Play 12.
I was out in Elmhurst, Queens this morning. I saw peace, tranquility. I saw people going about their business, people excited that it's the first day of school. I saw anything but anarchy. So this is just another one of President Trump's games. It's thoroughly political. It's part of his campaign strategy. It makes no sense. It's not based in the facts in the least. It's insulting to the people of New York City. And his effort to withhold our funding is unconstitutional.
Yeah, sure it is, buddy. It's oh man, it's amazing to hear de Blasio talk about this. The guy's ruining the largest city in America, and he is the Democrat epitome of poor governance now. That is a drag, and what you see happening in these major cities, this is a drag on the Democrats' hopes this fall. We all know it. They're just pretending like it's not actually happening. But, in New York, even Governor Cuomo was like, it was an embarrassment that night, the purge night, I call it, when there were mobs running outside my own home here in New York. This was very real to me. I could hear them. I saw the shattered glass and broken windows and everything next morning. And this mob that was running around was effectively able to run free because de Blasio doesn't want rioting, law-breaking crybabies to have to deal with the big, bad, mean NYPD. So they get to break stuff, ruin stuff. You had those two pampered lawyers threw a Molotov cocktail into a cop car here. That happened in New York, folks. I mean, let's not forget the insanity that this country has been through, all because of Democrats. All because they didn't get their way, or they feel like there's too much oppression, or there's injustice, and then gives them a license to act like total maniacs. Gives them a license to just ruin things for everybody else because they feel like it. Oh, okay. Well, I gotta tell you, it's pretty astonishing to watch this continue. But the only way we get justice, friends, November 3rd. Just remember that. That's the only way.
Time for roll call.
Roll call, everybody. Facebook.com/Buck Sexton. Team Buck at iHeartMedia.com if you want to email us. And remember, BuckSexton.com. Go check it out. You can listen to the podcast there. We have the Best of Buck now daily. If you just want to listen to a 45-minute condensed version of the show. But it's about 45, producer Mark, is that right? An hour, 45?
Yeah, under an hour usually. We try
under
to
an
keep
hour.
around
We'll keep
45, yeah.
under an hour. We'll shoot for under an hour. An hour or less, I think, is what we'll try to shoot for. It might be 62 minutes one day and 54 another or whatever, but try to keep it under an hour. But if you want to listen to a condensed version of the show, you've got that option too. And that way we kind of pull the ones that we think you most. Because sometimes I go 2 or even 3 segments on one topic. So the condensed version of the Best of Buck Daily will be, we'll move along faster into the different topics. So you'll kind of get a shorter version of the show. For those of you that like to listen on demand on the podcast, please do check that out. It's in the same feed. You don't have to, right? They don't have to subscribe to anything new. It's just, that's what's popping up in their feed now. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
That is correct.
Just making sure. And also go to bucksextonbook.com if you want to buy the Socialism Survival Guide, dealing with the biggest issues in this election. It's really an election and beyond book, looking at the economy as well. And there's some advice from my friends at Stansberry Research about financial decisions that you can make in response to these political realities that we're facing now of socialism. So bucksextonbook.com. sign up for a Stansberry newsletter there. You'll get a copy of the book. Please do check that out. And with that, I move to your thoughts, your comments, your musings, and another wonderful acts of whimsy. And I'm kind of run out of my ability to, producer Mark, where did it go? I'm actually trying to find the roll. Is it in the thing? Yeah, it is.
It's in the same email.
It's in the same email. Thank you.
It is every day.
There we go. And the same email is every day. Correct. All right. Dan is up first. He writes, this is an interesting way to start one. As a degenerate sports gambler, I find it quite simple to gauge the strength of one's conviction. Bet on it. Not long ago, my liberal friend from Boston was pontificating on the recklessness of professional sports for resuming in the U.S. We strongly disagree on the dangers of COVID for those younger than 60. So I proposed a bet. If anyone across all 4 major league sports, MLB, NFL, NBA, NHL, and even soccer, dies of COVID in 2020, I will pay him $1,000. He would owe me $1,000 if no one dies. Surprise, surprise, he declined. My offer still stands, and I even sweeten it to include anyone who is simply hospitalized for get death. Liberals don't believe any of this nonsense themselves. They enjoy whatever illusion of authority an entirely false pretense provides, as their real lives consist of no real control. My wager offer stands, and if you know anyone who would like to take me up on it, then in the immortal words of Al Bundy, let's rock. Were you a Married with Children watcher back in the day, producer Mark?
I've seen episodes here and there, but I think it was a little before my time.
It was a little early. Yeah, I was very young when that show was on. That show, I remember, was really popular for a while. That show was like a phenomenon.
Yeah, I definitely watched episodes in syndication on like TBS, when I was a kid.
Yeah. Oh, Al! She went on to be in Sons of Anarchy. The woman who played Peggy. Biel, I think is her name. Something Biel. Anyway, not Jessica Biel.
Yeah, I was going to say Jessica Biel.
No, married Justin Timberlake. I know. Whatever.
You can't be sad about that anymore. You have the Snow Princess.
Correct. Well, obviously, it all worked out in the end, so there's that. Plus, I think she got in some trouble for some anti-vax. Oh, Katie Seagal, I think is her name, or Seagal, I don't know. Not being confused with Steven Seagal. Man, I watched a lot of martial arts movies back in the day. That's actually my big complaint, my only real complaint about the Cobra Kai series. I just wish the martial arts were a little better. Karate, if you're throwing like high kicks in a fight, good luck to you. You're probably going to get your face pounded in. But I'm just saying. But I know someone's going to write me like, Buck, I can throw a flying tornado kick that would take down any assailant, armed or unarmed, instantly. And I'm like, okay, I'm glad the Taekwondo has convinced you that the spinning high kick is a high high percentage move in a life and death self-defense situation. But anyway, yeah. I just wish the karate in the Karate Kid was better. Ralph Macchio never learned any karate, really. He did a little bit for the movies, but the Zabka, and I'm really kind of a Johnny Lawrence fan. I'm just gonna say it. Zabka, who plays Johnny Lawrence in the Cobra Kai as well as in the original Karate Kid movies, he became a green belt. He actually, got a grounding in karate, so I give him credit for that. I feel like if you're going to be known for being the bad guy from the Karate Kid, you got to learn a little karate. But Ralph Macchio, I don't know, too busy doing other things. Fun fact, producer Mark, my mother was in a Bubble Yum commercial with Ralph Macchio, and it is on YouTube.
Huh.
Yeah, back when
what
he was
random little fact.
1979, 1980, something like that. My mom was in commercials back then, and yeah, she was in a commercial with Ralph Macchio. And it's actually a good commercial too. It really, it sells that bubble gum. Tell you that.
It makes you really want to chew gum.
Yes, it makes you really want to chew gum. To this day, I can't blow a bubble.
Yeah, I can't either.
And I've tried. I've been in a car before, and my dentist wants me to start chewing gum because I talk so much during the day. My mouth gets dried out, which is very bad for your teeth. I don't know if you know that. If you talk a lot, your mouth gets dry, and then I probably should be drinking water instead of coffee, which I'm just reminded of that now. Although I love my coffee. So, anyway. All
The
right.
great Vin Scully used to chew on Jolly Ranchers in his mouth. Have a Jolly Rancher in his mouth during every game.
I'm pretty sure that would turn your teeth into rotting cesspools of
I believe
bacteria.
a sugar-free Jolly Rancher.
Oh, okay. Yes. Hard sugar candy is not good for your teeth. See, I believe in science. Hashtag science. Hashtag dentists. Totally. All right, Richard. Buck. Hello, my friend. So at first I was on the fence with replacing the notorious RBG. The Biden rule has been around since Bush the Elder, right? But there is no good faith from the Dems, and Obama disposed of that rule. So why should we let the Democrats dictate the rules? I think I read Carter appointed a justice during the lame duck session before Reagan. It was okay then. What's wrong with it now? We should win and put a conservative in now. The Dems are going to writhe and rage. It's going to get crazy. Hold your gavels and shields high. Well, Richard, I agree with your final assessment that we should just do this thing. I think that's the right move. And I think that all this talk about self-imposed, congressional, a congressional rule that's not really a rule, meaning it's just something that someone in Congress says, is just a statement of politics, right? Oh, we're going to vote on this now, or we're not going to vote on this now because anything that involves discretion for these elected leaders when it comes to appointments of people to these offices is just political by its very nature. So I don't care what was said before. I don't care what they said. It was a different time. It was different. I'm not going to. Yeah, of course, people have flip-flop depending on which side of the issue now benefits them. And that's what I expect. These are politicians. That's what they do. They mislead. It's part of the job, unfortunately. Michael writes, Buck, you asked if Trump isn't reelected, will the GOP survive? I've thought that many times in my life, but the GOP is more like the cat came back, but we thought he was a goner, but the cat came back because he couldn't just stay away. Producer Mark, is that like a song lyric?
Is what a song lyric?
The cat came back. We thought he was a goner, but the cat came back because he just couldn't stay away. What is that? What is Michael trying to? Is that some inside thing? I'm just saying. You see?
I don't think so.
No. 'Cause I was thinking,
you know how cats just wander?
I guess I always think of Cat Stevens. You got a lady over. You got some Zima. You got a 6-pack of Zima.
There is a song. I just Googled The Cat Came Back. There's a song and a movie.
There we
So
go.
maybe it's a reference.
See, it's a reference. I could smell reference there, or read it, I suppose. But yeah. God, I miss the late 90s. Friends, Zima, grunge rock.
Or good shows like Seinfeld.
Seinfeld. Not as good as Friends, but still. What keeps the GOP alive is its belief and moral base and the thought, where are we all going to go? Also, people like Reagan, Trump, Cruz, Meadows, and the new up-and-coming people that convince us there is hope and to try once again. Unfortunately, we in the GOP get stuck with the McCains, Romneys, Murkowskis, Collins, and Bushes, who are more interested in their personal power and gratification and are at best chair warmers for the Democrats. They see their place and don't care about the future of this nation or their own party for that matter. Yeah, look, there's no shortage of disappointing Republicans out there. I don't think there's any question about that. And I hope that the most dire prognostications about the future of the GOP, if Biden were to win this thing, I hope that those are untrue. I hope that we are able to come back, but I can see a future in which it's just, remember this. Let's say the GOP only goes into the political wilderness for 20 or 30 years. Well, that's much of the rest of my life. So do I really care if the GOP comes back to be a majority party in 40 years? I mean, yeah, for my imaginary kids and grandkids maybe, but for me, it's not going to make all that much difference. So it's also why it's so important for everybody to have parts of their lives that are not political and to think about things other than politics. That's why I totally get why producer Mark just wants to watch sports, and why these days I'm playing a little bit of Call of Duty on PlayStation 4. I mean, you just need to give and I really should be praying and working out more. But you need these areas of your life you understand where all this stuff ultimately, you don't want to be a nihilist, like nothing matters, but can't let the politics seep into every realm of your brain. You got to have those places where you have inner peace and you have a greater sense of purpose. That's why belief in God is, I think, so necessary. Not just helpful, but necessary in life. Michael. Oh, no, we already did Michael. We'll come back with more in a sec. TJ writes, Buck, I agree with you and Rush that Cocaine Mitch should consider foregoing the SCOTUS nominee Senate hearings and go straight to a vote. However, I would contend that assuming we can still get the vote done in a short amount of time following the hearings, such hearings may actually be politically expedient for Republicans as they will show in some form or another the complete lunacy of the left, especially in regards to the anti-Catholic bigotry you mentioned yesterday. That will only create a bigger divide between sensible people and the Democrat Party. With all that being said, for the sake of the future nominee's integrity, the most respectable thing to do would be to forego the hearing process to avoid the libel and slander that will undoubtedly be on show for whomever Trump's nominee is. My prediction, hearings will be held, and one, if not both, of Collins and Murkowski will end up voting for the nominee. Yeah, TJ, I didn't know that the great Rush Limbaugh agreed with me on this one, so thanks for letting me know that. I think we should have a vote right now. Name her. That's going to be a her. Name her, vote on her, get it done. There's nothing to be... People that say, oh, we'll see how crazy the Democrats are yeah, but you're extending... Who knows? You're taking risk, friends. Why even speak to the FBI if you don't have to, even if you're innocent? You're taking a risk. Say nothing, right? What are the two things of advice that I'm positive when I tell you? Wear comfortable shoes, never talk to the FBI. I feel like I'm making people's lives better by just telling them those two things for the purposes of the Buck Sexton show. Wear comfortable shoes, never talk to the FBI. And I don't see the advantage here. I don't see the upside in putting her through this. So there you have it. There you have it. I just think that this is all downside, and I could be wrong, but we're taking a risk. Remember what the Democrats tried to do with the FBI investigation of Kavanaugh? They were just stalling for time to put more pressure on people. You don't know what kind of pressure they're going to bring to bear. You don't know what member of the Senate all of a sudden is going to get a phone call from some Oppo researcher, some Republican senator you're not even thinking of, saying, "Hey, your daughter is, she's a principal of this company, and we think there might be some financial and proprietary going on there. I don't want her to be caught up in a white collar criminal thing, but you really got an important vote here, Senator so-and-so. That's the kind of pressure I'm talking about. I'm not talking about just, shrieking lunatics yelling at people like Jeff Flake, and then Jeff Flake soils himself. I'm so scared. I'm talking about real pressure. You're just extending the time for them to figure out a way to get to a couple Republican senators, a couple of them. That's all it takes. Julie writes, here in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, we have an ice rink in town by the name of Hobbs. The liberal city, county, and health department have the homeless population housed on one of the rinks. The kids have now started hockey and other ice skating practice. They are sharing the building with the homeless. This is under approval of city management. In addition, the skaters are required to wear masks while on the ice playing hockey. This is not recommended by the CDC or USA Hockey. We continue to struggle with how to stand up for our kids and make changes. Julie, I'm sorry to hear that. And, you're seeing a lot of this. I've seen this too. That I have to wear a mask in my gym. That's not CDC guidance. That's Cuomo guidance. Why are they making this crap up? Or at least that's not World Health Organization guidance. I don't know. Maybe it is CDC guidance now. But don't ask about why they're changing. They're changing because it's so important now. Oh, okay. Sure it is. Anybody who believes that crap, I don't know. It's too far gone for me to be able to save their minds at this point. But yeah, the arbitrary restrictions, the use of power during this period of time, very, very troubling. I'm sorry about that, Julie, but just, keep your kids safe and just stay in the fight. We'll get through it. See, and that's my message for all of us. Stay in the fight. We'll get through it. It's going to be one heck of a ride here as we get close to the election. But understand this, that the relief, if the election goes our way, will be short-lived too. So shields high.